Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the CCBC Career Club website. And we're excited today to have with us Rena Mack, who is the Senior Recruitment Manager at Genesis Healthcare. And she's going to talk with us a little bit about the recruitment process at Genesis so that you guys can get the inside scoop on what employers are looking for when you're applying for jobs. So welcome, Rena. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be
Rena,
here.
Rena, could you give us, excuse me, a little background just on what's your job? What do you do there? What is it that a senior recruitment manager is responsible for?
So I manage a team of 7 recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
5 do the nurse recruiting for our nursing centers that are throughout 7 states. So the East Division is Maryland, Virginia, Delaware,
So
North
all over.
Kentucky, Tennessee. Yes, so the eastern part of our company, and then also we have a physician and nurse practitioner recruiter, and then we do our department head level that are non-clinical as well.
Okay. So can you give us an idea of what the basic recruitment process looks like, particularly for, a nurse or that kind of healthcare practitioner?
Sure. We really try to connect on a personal level with a lot of individuals. So we, of course, have an internet, people to apply online to express their interest.
Right.
But in that, we do like to have a conversation with individuals because we feel like the process can be so impersonal nowadays. And so with that, we encourage people, to apply online, and then we'll contact them, have a pre-screen. If that goes well, then we'll move to the next steps, get them set up for an in-person interview. Because we have so many locations with our organization, many that are very close to one another, it's another reason it's important we talk to people to see what's the best for them in terms of fit.
Right. So obviously the recruitment process starts with someone filling out an online application usually.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you look for in an online application? I know that a lot of people are nervous about, how to fill them out. What are the kinds of things that are important for people to include in their online applications in order for you guys to be contacting them for a pre-screen interview?
We're looking for ideally the education, first
Mm-hmm.
and foremost. Second of all, if they've had some sort of prior work history, it doesn't always have to be in healthcare, particularly if people are starting out. If they've had some sort of even internship or volunteer time that they've put in, that will, we look for that as well. Ideally, overall, we want people that want to work with our specific population, which is largely geriatric. So there's got to be that interest there.
Mm-hmm.
So find ideally resumes attached are actually the first thing, and then beyond that, we'll talk with them to go a little bit beyond the resume as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't actually do a formal application where we get the social and all those other details that I know people are hesitant to share until we're at the point of an interview, just for that reason.
Okay. So, and I know that with online applications, some online applications, there are some organizations that are starting to include a personality assessment as part of that. Is that something that you all include in your application process?
The For registered nurse positions and all other regular entry level opportunities, we do not.
Mm-hmm.
Where we do have a leadership assessment, which is different than a personality. It's about your leadership style.
Right.
For our administrators and our directors of nursing. And we don't implement that until we've actually had an in-person meeting and everybody feels an agreement this is a really strong candidate. And again, it's just to assess leadership.
Okay, so that's not part of the initial assessment process
Correct.
that you all are using.
No.
Okay. What are some of the things then when someone comes in for when you do a pre-screen interview? What are you looking for in that pre-screen before you would bring someone in? I'm assuming the pre-screens are a telephone screen.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry, it froze up there.
I think I lost the signal.
We're back. It froze up.
You are? Now you're back. I don't
Yes,
know what happened.
it froze. So, did you hear the question? What is it that you look for in the pre-screen interview? Which I'm assuming you do the pre-screen as a phone screen.
Yeah. We're looking for people, one, their interest in the geriatric population in particular,
Mm-hmm.
someone that's enthusiastic about what they're doing, that care and compassion, teamwork environment. We're very much team-oriented in our centers.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we look for stable work history, or like I shared, if somebody hasn't had the work history, again, then that's where the enthusiasm is going to come into play. Look for.
Okay. And then when someone comes in for an interview, if you decide that you're going to bring them in for an in-person interview, what can they expect from that experience? What does that usually involve?
We focus a lot on behavior interviewing techniques. So it's going to be usually structured where the hiring manager is going to ask probably 15 minutes worth of behavior interview questions, and then open it up for the individual to ask questions as well of us. Because again, it goes both ways, and we know
Right.
that our candidates are looking as much at us as we
Mm-hmm.
are at them, and fit's so important.
So, and are there particular questions, because that's something that we've talked with applicants about a lot, is making sure that you come prepared with questions. Are there good questions that for them to ask as opposed to, are there some questions where you think, why did you ask that question?
Sure. I think that it's nice for them to maybe ask, well, what do you enjoy about working here? Ask the
Mm-hmm.
hiring manager that. What special things do you feel set you apart? Maybe you could ask in terms of retention. That's always, I'm always impressed when somebody asks what that is, because that tells me that person's looking to stay committed.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in addition, where they see career paths as
Mm-hmm.
opportunities with the company too.
Now, are there any questions that you don't want people asking, or that will, be more likely to have you, reconsidering whether or not you would hire that person?
When candidates come in right out of the gate asking about salary, that's
Mm-hmm.
usually kind of a turnoff, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because we feel like that's their first and foremost priority, more so than actually what they're giving through their work.
Mm-hmm.
And we pay competitively, and so we feel like we are going to broach that topic, of course, and it's important, but there's so many other things that go into having a healthy, happy workplace environment.
So if people ask questions that sort of convey their interest and also their sense of how they could add value and that kind of thing, that's definitely a more positive thing than if they're coming in and asking questions that are all about what's in it for me.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have any pet peeves with job applicants? Are there, some things that you're like, oh boy, here we go.
To be honest, I guess the salary one up front is the pet peeve for me. That's really
Okay. Okay. What about with resumes? What are the kinds of, are there things that you're specifically looking for in terms of what a resume should look like? Again, are there pet peeves with resumes?
I think the shorter the better. It's really sufficient to give your education, the work experience you've had, where it's been, the time frame. I think it's important to put your address. We find some resumes now where people don't do that, and that's hard for me, particularly when I have a very large geography. I need to know where to send that to the right person.
Mhm.
So I really find it advantageous that people put their address and their contact information right on that front page. But
Mhm.
1 to 2 pages at the most, I think, is sufficient. Definitely. The run-on ones where they put everything they did in their schooling and their
Right,
class comes with the territory. So with the degree, that's not
right.
necessary.
So they don't need to have as many details about the courses that they took and that kind of thing, because there's an understanding of what that would
Yep.
entail.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
When you're working with applicants or looking at applicants, as far as the experiences that they've had while they're in school, what recommendations would you have, or what are things that you would suggest that people do while they're in school that could help make their application stronger?
I think that the more that they search out getting a variety of internships or environments that they've even volunteered in, I think is only going to play to their advantage. One, because it's going to help them find what's the right fit for them. Because many will say, oh, coming in, this seems like the right environment for me, and they go, oh, no, I'm sorry, I actually wanted pediatrics after all. And so I think
That's
that
a
it's
little
important
different.
that they experience, right. Yeah, it is, but it does happen, and I think
Right.
that people, the more that they're able to kind of vet that out during their education, I think the better for them too, because it's much easier to not have to stop and start a new job.
Yeah, so using their schooling as a time to explore the different kinds of environments that they might like to work in, so that by the time they get to the job search phase, they're, ready to go and they know, I like kids or I don't like kids or, whatever, or I like to work with older adults.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And then we find in our environment, sometimes, particularly from the nursing side, they're required to do a long-term care
Hmm.
curriculum and clinical, but they don't see often the aspect of the short-term care rehab, which is really where our industry is growing. And so
Hmm.
they might have to actually ask, hey, can you take me to your skilled unit if you have one? I'd really like to see that. Hopefully their clinicals are exposing them to it, but not always.
So it sounds like it would be
On the
helpful.
nursing side of things. So that's just a tip we've noted. Is ask when you.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you're saying it would be helpful that as people, start to identify, for example, different populations that they might like to work with, that they should see about maybe doing informational interviews or that kind of thing, so that they could learn more about what are the uh, kind of changing things that are going on in the field.
Yep, yep. Same thing if they were in a hospital. I think it'd be
Mhm.
valuable for them to ask if they could, see what it's like on the other units, even if it's not, a formal clinical, maybe a little shadow time too, because I think it benefits.
Right. Okay. Now, is shadowing part of, I know that it is for other places, is it part of the interview process for Genesis where people would spend some time on a unit, as part of the interview process?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, we offer a shadow day to
Okay.
that individual, particularly if they're coming brand new into the industry or if they've worked in a total different setting. Yeah, we recommend that.
Hmm. Okay. So, can you give some final words of advice? What would you suggest to job seekers to make themselves the most um, attractive candidate, the most attractive applicant? What's your best advice for people?
I think that the more that they can reach out and make that personal connection with a recruiter or the environment they want to work in, the better. The follow-up that they do really speaks as well. I know that I've really noticed those individuals that once they present a resume or submit their information online, rather, if they seek out a means to contact a recruiter and make that personal connection. Because in our industry, that's what we do. We care for people.
Hmm.
And so in that respect, the people that have that follow through in a courteous manner, I really make sure that we take time to move them through the process.
So the more that people are showing their own personal caring side, the better.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us about this. This has been very helpful. And I think we'll give our graduates a lot to think about in terms of how to make their applications stronger going forward into the future. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.